Communists believe in economic equality, in a world where everyone in a society gets equal shares of the benefits derived from labor. Communists believe in wealth distribution and a classless society. This society is what Karl Marx described as a perfect utopia. But what if communism took over so that the whole world became communist? That's the question we're asking today on Life's Biggest Questions. Hello and welcome back to Life's Biggest Questions, the channel that imagines the impossible. I'm your host, Charlotte Dobray, and thanks for checking out another one of our videos. We are getting extremely close to 1 million subscribers. Maybe by the time this video goes up, we will be at 1 million. So thank you so much to all the people who have helped make that possible. If you want to connect with the creative team at Life's Biggest Questions, check out the description for the links to our socials. And make sure you stick around until the end of the video where we respond to your comments. Karl Marx, the father of communism, wrote the Communist Manifesto in 1848. His manifesto was what led to the formation of the Communist Party. Karl Marx believed that in a perfect world, there would be no such thing as classes. In a perfect world, there would be no such thing as greed. But we don't live in a perfect world, do we? The majority of the world's wealth is in the hands of 0.6% of the global population, and the richest people in the world hold almost 40% of the world's wealth. Karl Marx died before any of his theories could be tested. If the world was communist, it would have meant that in order to become communist, we would have to overthrow all existing governments that are currently in place. Karl Marx said that there must be a complete and total destruction of the existing government. Once the existing government was overthrown, a dictator or group of leaders gained control of all the working class people in the world. The new government now has complete control over the education, religion, employment, and even marriages of working class people. Depending on who this dictator or group of people were, their values would likely be the norm for anyone. They would decide what you learned in school, regardless of whether or not it was correct. Most people would likely follow one religion. And gay marriages? Yeah. Forget about it. Unless we got lucky with a particularly liberal dictator, they probably aren't going to be down for same-sex marriages. That doesn't mean that same-sex couples wouldn't exist, but they would likely have to exist in secret. The leader or leaders would then take control of all property and all wealth, and redistribute it among the people. Sure, this might be nice for a while. It would be great if all people had their basic needs fulfilled. If all people didn't have to worry about putting food on the table or finding a place to sleep at night, that would remove quite a bit of stress. We would all live in government housing where one person's belongings are the same as the next. It might be nice to live in a world that wasn't so consumer driven. Sometimes I feel like I'm a slave to advertisements. I wouldn't mind it if I was just worried about the basics, my relationships and family. But the government initiative to provide basic necessities for the masses would lose steam within the first couple of decades. It's highly likely that if the government took control of wealth, there would probably be widespread starvation and famine within the first 30 years. We know this because in societies that have attempted communism, like in the Soviet Union, North Korea, and Maoist China, governments are unable to provide basic needs to their citizens long term. If the world was communist, it would mean all products would be controlled by the state. This is another one of Karl Marx's principles. If the state controlled all products, it means that if you wanted to create your own business where you could produce your own products, you wouldn't be able to. There would be no such thing as a self-made entrepreneur. Sure, maybe the government would employ inventors who would solve everyday problems, but it's quite possible that if the state controlled all products and businesses, our society might not be as technologically advanced. If the world was communist, there wouldn't be much incentive for people to do well, other than to help their fellow man. And let's face it, humans are greedy. They are attracted to wealth and social status, and it's always been that way. It's primal. Even animals have a social hierarchy. The social hierarchy of humans is just more complex. If the world was communist, it would also mean that the government would take control of all public services. In many areas of the world with government-run systems, the quality of services goes down. Hospitals might not have the best equipment. Infrastructure won't be maintained well because, let's be realistic, it takes forever for the government to do anything as it is, let alone if they were responsible for everyone and everything. If the world was communist, there would be no democracy. If you had a problem with your government, you would not be allowed to talk about it, at least not in public. If you disagreed with the government, you could be punished. As we have seen in the past, those who disagreed with Vladimir Lenin were sent to worker camps. A communist world would definitely be a difficult thing to adjust to, and there would probably be uprisings, and therefore retaliation from the state. Would everything be terrible if the world was communist? Well, not entirely. Sure, you would have to maintain a certain level of good work, but you wouldn't have to bust your ass. And why would you? With no obligation to work exceptionally hard, there would be less societal pressures to do well. Education would be free, so more people would have university degrees. Housing would be free, so you wouldn't have to worry about where your next rent check is coming from. It would definitely be nice if communism worked, but it's been demonstrated that it doesn't work in the long term. If the entire world became communist, the reality is millions would die of starvation and a lack of basic needs, as well as poor government programs like hospitals. Eventually, after the world had enough, they would overthrow the government and things would go back to a traditional market system. So there you have it. But now I open the question up to you, because even though I am your omniscient narrator that appears to have all the answers, I don't. So did you agree with me? Did you not? Why don't you let me know in those comments and let's keep the discussion going. What do you think would happen if the world was communist? For now, I'm gonna wrap up this video with some comment replies from my last video, how could you defeat a Titanoboa snake? Vincent said, chop its head off, roast it with a flamethrower. Well, that escalated quickly. Yoshi Cool said, what if Titanoboa fought Megalodon? I'm actually a little embarrassed to say, but we did do this topic already. Are you really that surprised though? Hand Prank said, just play Lady Gaga albums, that will surely kill it. Hey, I actually like Lady Gaga. I take offense to that. Dino Marino Delphin said, if the Titanoboa had not been extinct, I would like it as a pet. I think it's quite possible that your pet would try to eat you. Anime Theory said Titanoboa is the CEO of Life's Biggest Questions. For some reason this comment made me laugh out loud, so thank you for that. The CEO is actually Lennon Delitzing, just so you know. Jared Ramayo said, what if my mom and dad never had a divorce? Well then I would assume they would still be married. That is all for this episode of Life's Biggest Questions. If you want to stay on this channel, check out the playlist that's clickable on your screen, and make sure you subscribe to notifications so you never miss a future episode of Life's Biggest Questions.